Hello and thanks again for joining us on this edition of Green and Gold Gridiron. I'm your host, Brian Groff, as always, alongside the multi-talented writer for PackerReport.com, Keith Rording.
Thank you, Brian. That's
How's that for an introduction?
Oh, man, where has that been all year?
It was in the scripts, but it turned out it was on page 2.
It was on
the
page
whole
2.
season. We only had to go 21 weeks before I could find that part of the script.
21 weeks.
You know, we also have Jenny Ritchie and a special guest.
That's what I've heard. I've heard it's a very exciting show.
Our special guest is Santana Dotson.
Yes.
And you've been planning this for a long time, so we're really looking forward to it.
I have. You know, I think it's a perfect guy to talk to heading up to Super Bowl 50, a guy that, you know, won it all in Super Bowl 31 and had the agony of defeat in Super Bowl 32, which I was at both of those, and it was horrible.
And we've had a chance over the last 2 years of doing this show to talk to Packers who had won a Super Bowl, so we really have the variety going back to Super Bowls 1 and 2, up into Super Bowl 31, and then the more recent one as well.
Absolutely. Jeff Dellenbach just a few weeks ago, and you know, a guy like Marv Fleming, so I think we've done a nice job of really spanning the generations, and you know, again, you get those common themes about what goes into winning a Super Bowl, and also I think just the heartbreak of losing.
And you know, Super Bowl programming goes on forever. You finish up the conference championship games, and immediately you're looking forward to, especially this year with the big one, Super Bowl 50. And of course, this is a Packers show, so we have to put a slant on this. If you remember way back when the Packers were doing really well at the beginning of the season, they had to play those back-to-back undefeated teams, Denver and Carolina, the two teams that would go on to play in the Super Bowl. Right there. And it was the latest in an NFL season that a team would have had to have played back-to-back undefeated teams. Of course, the Packers did not do so well in those games.
Especially in Denver.
So let's throw this out there with the Packers spin on everything. If the Packers were playing, regardless of AFC, NFC, whichever the opponent would be, who would they match up better against? Would it have been Denver or Carolina?
Well, let's just say I'm not sure it'd be a good outcome against either, but you go back to that Denver game after the bye when we were feeling very high about the Packers and their chances, and that was the finest defensive performance I've maybe ever seen in almost 30 years of watching football. I mean, I watched that game a couple times. There was not a receiver that got open. In 3 hours, that Denver secondary did not give space to any receiver. I've never seen anything like it. You know, that said, the defense has really carried that team. I think Peyton Manning has reminded us of his old self in spurts. But you look at that Carolina team, and they got all on top of Green Bay early in that game. And that's really kind of been their MO all year, to jump on top of teams really at a historic pace. Green Bay came back and made that game close at the end, but I don't know. I think if they played both of those, despite what Denver's defense did to them early, I think they could hang with Denver a little bit longer than Carolina, who I think is just, they're just feeling it. They've got confidence and swagger, and Cam Newton's at the top of his game, and you know, I think we're going to see a great one this weekend. But you know, again, you wouldn't even have Randall Cobb probably having that bruised lung from Arizona. So I think it'd be a rough game against either.
Maybe it's your chance to see more of Jeff Janis.
Finally, I know that would have been
That's what it would have taken. One more game. Let's bring in Jenny Ritchie as promised. Hello, Jenny.
Hello, Jenny. Jenny made us cookies today.
I
She
did.
did.
I'm a very
I'd
nice
like to
co-host.
give one to everybody. I don't know how many.
They were
there are.
delicious.
It's a big plate.
I had to bring them in so I wouldn't eat them all. Otherwise,
I-
that's exactly what would
I
happen.
might eat them all during our break.
We hope to do that. We have a Super Bowl champion ready to visit with us. And what kind of things are you going to ask him in Titletown Topics?
Well, we are going to talk about the Super Bowl. Obviously, there are some opinions of his that we want to get on that. We're going to also talk about his foundation, which he does a lot of community work, things of that nature. So we're going to give him a chance to talk about that. And we're just going to get to know him a little bit better.
Sounds
So
good.
it's been a while since we've talked to Santana. I get old number 71.
Exactly. We look forward to that. Santana Dotson, Super Bowl champion, coming up after the break.
Brought to you in part by Hermanning Financial Group.
Hermanning Financial Group strives to help you and your family reach your financial goals while demonstrating their core values of integrity, independence, and innovation. With offices in Wausau, Stevens Point, Manitowoc, and Wisconsin Rapids, proudly supporting the Boys and Girls Club.
It's 3 p.m. For 50 million kids across America, school's out. And for a third of these kids, they're out on their own, out with nowhere to go and nothing to do. It's time to support the Boys and Girls Clubs. Great futures start here.
Do you like to walk?
Do you want to live longer?
You will love square dancing.
friends you meet for life.
Marvelous people.
Like I said, meet people.
I love it.
Love it.
I love Square Dance.
The fun, the family.
Great variety of music.
The camaraderie.
Too young.
It's fun. Try it, you'll like it.
Call 715-544-7969. Visit WisconsinSquareDancing.com for more information. First lesson free, singles and couples welcome.
When disaster strikes, water, fire, storm damage, and even mold, we take care of them all. Anytime, day or night, 24 hours, 7 days a week. Quality service and customer satisfaction are top priorities. Tell your insurance company you prefer North Star Cleaning and Restoration.
And remember, don't just get it clean, get it North Star Clean.
NorthstarCleaning.net. Welcome back to Green and Gold Gridiron. Brian Groff and Keith Rodink, and it is time for us to introduce our special guest. He signed with the Green Bay Packers in 1996 and immediately helped Green Bay to 2 Super Bowls. They won it all with Super Bowl 31. We look forward to talking about that. It is time for us to welcome Santana Dotson. And Santana, thanks so much for joining us. Much different weather situations. We're getting dumped on by snow currently, and you don't really have to worry about that, do you?
Oh, no, not at all, man. Not at all. You know, today we had on the tank tops and flip-flops. It's real warm down here in Houston, Texas.
Take us inside that locker room. What was the culture of that team? Obviously, from the outside, we could look at it and really look at Reggie White as a leader on that side of the ball and really for the whole team. And you had Brett Favre and some of the other guys on the offensive side. What was the culture? What was it like? What was forming and coming together at that point?
Well, the culture was sheer determination and domination. You know, I remember Fritz Shermer, actually a defensive coordinator. Our first conversation as a defense was there are no logical next steps. And what he meant by that was the fact that we were in the NFC Championship the year before didn't necessarily mean or didn't grant us the pass to be in the Super Bowl the next year. So everything we had to do was to show and prove that we deserved the right to play for that championship. So that was the whole mindset, whether it was practice, whether it was a scrimmage, whether it was preseason. What I recall on the field, everything we did was cater to being a dominant, cohesive unit and stepping out and showing everybody, no matter who the opponent was, but everybody that got that film, like, hey, this is a team to be reckoned with this year.
Mm-hmm. And I remember covering that team in 1996 for Packer Report, and there was just, whether you were at practice, whether you were at a game in the locker room, there was a feeling. I mean, there was a tangible confidence that it seemed like you guys had that this was going to be the year. And I remember some of those games, and I know I've heard you talk about it. Offenses would break the huddle, and you would see those offensive linemen come up, and they just had that, oh man, here we go again look, didn't they?
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, you know, when we were rolling, if you can imagine, if you're looking at a defense or a defensive front that had myself, that I, you know, as a 3 technique, I had 50-plus sacks my career. Sean Jones had 110, 115 sacks his career. Reggie White had over 200, 250, 280 sacks I think he ended up with. So you break the huddle, and those guys were like, you know, who are we sliding to? Who can we help protect? Who do we double team? Then you had Gilbert Brown, and the interesting thing about Gilbert, you know, everybody talks about how big, and you can see how big and how massive the guy was. But when I tell you his ability in a small range of space to get on and off blocks, and to be able to get on and off blocks and explode to the ball carrier, that's what made him such a phenomenal and great player. You know, in a 5-10 yard radius, I'm going to tell you he was as fast as anybody on that defensive front. So his ability to not only be that size, but to be able to move in 5-10 yards radius was outstanding. And, you know, the thing about that defensive front is we demanded the best out of everybody. And that's really what it's going to take. You know, most championship teams, if you look at them offensively and defensively, those fronts, those typically determine the outcome of the majority, 90-95% of your game.
And with Brett Favre on the other side of the ball, take us inside some of those practices, some of those times where you'd face off against what was probably, if not the best, one of the best offenses that you would see throughout the in the NFL, and you got a guy at the height of his MVP career.
You're exactly right. You know, some of the best times and the best I wish we could have kind of bottled that up and showed the fans. Thursday and Friday were our scrimmage or our one-on-one days, and that's when the ones were versus the ones. And we really look forward to that. You know, being a premier defense, we wouldn't be satisfied until Mike Holmgren, who was the play caller and the head coach at times, till he was on the sideline red-faced, because we knew we did our job defensively, because we wouldn't allow them to move a muscle. And it was great, you know. And again, we put the pressure on ourselves to show and prove. Not only did we talk it, but we walked it on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm. And obviously the pinnacle of that was getting to Super Bowl 31, beating the New England Patriots. What do you think of? I mean, so many great moments from, you know, Brett's first touchdown to Andre Rison to Desmond Howard's return, but you also had Reggie White with those 3 sacks and that club move over. I think poor Max Lane and just pulling Drew Bledsoe to the ground. You know, you're right next to him on those plays. So what do you think of when you reflect back on that?
You know what? The funny part, I watched that a few years ago from the start to finish, and I didn't even recall that we were actually down at the half in that game. You know, and that just tells you how sure will that we were not going to lose that game. You know, the things I remember most about that game are really flashes of greatness. Like you talked about the Reggie. There were big hits in the game by Brian Williams and a bunch of guys like that. But I really particularly remember Desmond Howard, you know, not just that game, but if you watch what he did throughout the playoffs, he had a great ability from the latter part of the year, sure, from December to January. He would have been, I would have to say, the MVP of the team. Because if you watch what he did in the NFC Championship, the conference finals, as well as the Super Bowl, he gave us the ability, short fields to score, and the offensive team, the offensive units that we were playing against were already in the hole or in a minus situation where they had to score points. So Desmond was such a big part of everything we did, not only that year, but particularly him and the special teams, what they did in that Super Bowl and the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. So many great memories that we're touching on, but I think what really stands out is when the confetti's coming down and each of you individually gets a chance to pick up that Lombardi trophy, Reggie White circling around the field. What was that moment like for you? How did you soak that in, and did you just think about where you had been and where you had come and all the work that had gone into it?
You're exactly right. I mean, it's a relishing moment, and I remember just the confetti coming down, embracing your teammates, embracing the coaches. You know, you finally made it. Actually, New Orleans was my hometown. I'm from New Orleans originally, so to be able to do it in my hometown particularly gave you a feeling of elation. And I automatically started looking up in the stands for my family. You know, you want to share that moment with your loved ones and all of your family in the stands. So I remember going to find them immediately. And not only the stadium, but the hotel afterwards, the family hotel after the team hotel, Bourbon Street after the family hotel. You know, I literally saw the sun come up and I was helping the janitor sweep up in the bar establishment we were at, you know, till wee hours of the morning. And then from there, we go to the airport, we go on a plane, nobody's tired, nobody's red-eyed. You know, we're still turning cartwheels up and down the aisle on the airplane. And we land and we get on these buses and the streets are packed, you know. You know, a lot of times your kids might not remember this, but I know you guys or folks that are from Wisconsin remember. It had been a 25, 30-year wait for success, you know, in between Super Bowl I and II and Super Bowl 31. So it was just a feeling of elation, and finally, you know, we've been close and we finally got over that hump. So those are some of the most memorable moments in my life.
I almost don't even want to. I was going to ask you about Super Bowl 32. I'm feeling so good. I almost don't even want to. We don't even have to go there. Forget Super Bowl 32.
Well, I mean, I understand, which is funny. You guys asked me about 31. Like I said, I remember flashes. Yeah. 32, the games you lose, I remember every single play. 32. That's just crazy how your mind works.
Santana, you know? I got it. Paul Frage. When you found out he was not active for that, because I go back, when people talk to me about Super Bowl 32, the first 2 words out of my mouth are Paul Frage. Paul Frage wasn't active for that game. Biggest mistake.
Yeah, that actually broke my heart. You know, Paul Frage, he was I think it was his 17th, 18th year in the league. He was in, And, you know, it broke my heart that he wasn't up because, again, it was like a family affair.
Yeah.
And going into that game, the reason he was down, because we really felt like we were number one defense in the NFL, and we had the number one rushing defense. And we really felt like, the coaching staff really felt like, and we also understood that it was going to be an Elway, his last show. He was going to have to throw the ball 30, 40 times to get out of there with a victory. And we understood that. The problem was the only defensive end we had with Paul Freys down, Gabe Wilkins, he went down in the first series with he had something with his knee. He went down with a bad knee the first series. So now we've got a nose guard playing defensive end for the rest of the game.
Darius Holland.
Darius Holland. So a la, here comes Terrell Davis 160 yards later against the top Russian defense in NFL. So that's really what started the game, you know.
And that was with him missing time with his migraine.
Yeah. That's right. Terrell Davis gets a migraine, exactly. But I guess I didn't hit him in the head hard enough.
I know.
Santana, some Packers fans believe Super Bowl 32 never happened, so they just skipped from 31 to 33 during the 2 weeks prior to the next Super Bowl. Thank you for that insight. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll bring Jenny Ritchie in, and she has our Titletown topic. Stick around, everyone.
Hi, I'm Joan London. When I needed to find senior care for my mom, I really struggled to find the right fit. That's why I recommend A Place for Mom, the nation's largest senior living referral service. They have advisors that can help you find the right senior care at no cost to you. There's a place for answers, a place for mom.
If you're struggling to find reliable senior living information for your mom or dad, call 800-452-3594.
Things break all the time and glue never works. What you need is Laser Bond USA, the amazing liquid plastic that fixes virtually anything in as little as 3 seconds. Laser Bond is not a glue, but a unique liquid plastic that only hardens with the UV light. Now fill in plumbing leaks in 3 seconds or less. Instantly repair kids' toys and keep playtime flying. The magic of powerful liquid plastic that hardens under ultraviolet light. The best part, the adhesive is made in the USA.
Wow, that is fast.
It bends, it's flexible.
If you mess up applying, just wipe clean. No sticky residue. Call now to get Laser Bond USA for just $19.99 and receive this protective carry case free. But wait, we're going to double the offer absolutely free and ship your order free. Call now.
Call 1-800-504-3045 to get your Laser Bond USA. Call now or go to laserbondusa.com. So call 1-800-504-3045. Call now.
Welcome back to Green and Gold Gridiron. Brian Groff, Keith Rodink, and Jenny Ritchie, and our special guest Santana Dotson, the NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year in 1992. Thanks so much for joining us. Once again, we're having a fantastic time. Let's turn it over to Jenny for our Titletown topics.
Yes, whereas Keith says he was not going to talk about Super Bowl 32, I did not make any promises of that nature. So you've been on both the winning and the losing side of the Super Bowl, though. I mean, you've obviously seen how that works out. So with that being said, Super Bowl 50 coming up. Who are you rooting for? How do you think that game's going to play out?
Rooting for is a loose term, but I am a football fan. I do not like Denver at all for obvious reasons.
I cannot root for them either.
Exactly. So it's hard for me to root for Denver. If Peyton wins as an old dude with a bad back, I understand. So I'm okay if Peyton wins, but I'm probably more so pulling for the NFC and Carolina Panthers.
Two good defenses. Do you watch those defenses and kind of you look for similarities, or are there certain guys that jump out at you as an old defensive lineman?
Yeah, definitely. You know, again, I always start with the defensive fronts, and the defensive front of Denver actually is they've actually performed the best, one of the tops in the NFL all year. You know, with the outside guys, and also they have Wolf in the inside interior. Doing a great job at rushing the passer. So they have a good ability to always force some issues in the backfield. And so, Cam's really going to have to make some smart reads and smart throws to make sure that those guys aren't able to keep him at bay.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, so you, this past summer, hosted your second annual Santana Dotson Celebrity Kickball Tournament. You have your own foundation. Tell us a little bit about your foundation and the kickball match. I mean, you're so active in the community and everything like that. Give us a little bit of insight on that.
The biggest thing is I'm big on kids. I've had my foundation since 92, 93. And now that I'm here in Houston and back and forth to Wisconsin, I'm able to expand a variety of ways and work with more kids in the area. So we do an annual kickball tournament up in Wisconsin. And really the premise is it's finally starting to warm up a little bit, get the kids outside, get them active, and have them having fun, you know. And us grown kids, too, we like to get out a little bit and have a little fun, too. So, you know, it's really kind of a welcome to the spring. Kids, you're doing a great job with your testing, kind of a reward for the kids and exposing them and getting them excited about getting back outside and getting active.
And with the foundation now, you've done stuff in Wisconsin, you've done stuff down in Houston. You even have a park, right, where you do a lot of these activities?
Yes, definitely. We've got a Dotson Family Park, and we have about 300 kids in our program. Oh, wow. And the sports we run, and that's ages from 5 to 15 years old. And we're doing softball, football, of course. We've got some basketball as well as baseball and soccer. And it's the typical complex that you would see at a Y or Boys and Girls Club or something like that. But at the same time, our kids have to turn in their report cards, and we just try to be an extra infrastructure to the mother or a lot of single parents that are at home. So they'll have to show up with their report cards, and from that, if they've got low conduct or low grades in school, low marks, then we can start some of the after-school tutorials, some of the leadership development activities, some of the anti-drugs, anti-gangs, those type of things. Just kind of trying to add little nuggets in the kids' brain so they understand the influences and how to away from them.
Fantastic. So with that, you do a lot of appearances, you know, in the state of Wisconsin. You talk on radio stations down in Milwaukee. So what do you enjoy about staying connected to the team and the fan base here? Because obviously Green Bay fans are unique to a lot of other NFL teams.
Yeah, I mean, you know what, I think the best thing since retiring and going on the speaker circuit and working with different foundations and partnering with a lot of my teammates' foundations around Wisconsin is it's great to hear stories. You know, everybody loves to see us and hear about, you know, what was happening in the locker room. And trust me, we have plenty of those stories. But, you know, I think the best part about being a Packer is every guy or every young lady or every mom has a story of how they watched the games with their grandparents, how they got their first cheerleading outfit from their grandfather or their uncle that might not be with us anymore, but that's who raised them the way to be the Packer fan they are. And where I was at Super Bowl I or where I was at Super Bowl 32. And it's just as great for us to hear those stories and you start realizing how much you appreciate it. Because when you're playing, those guys, and we have tunnel vision. You know, you play on Sunday, you got to get ready for next Sunday. So you might sign an autograph or you might do an appearance, but you really have tunnel vision because your career and your lifetime and the season is so short and deliberate. So the fact that once you retire, you really realize how special you were to different groups and everybody's living room and how they love to tune in and turn that TV on Sundays at 12 o'clock.
That's awesome.
Wonderful. Well, that's all I have for you.
That does it for our Titletown Topics. Thanks so much for the insight. And, of course, Packer fans, so grateful and happy that you played for that team from 1996 through 2001. Do you ever cross paths with Donald Driver in Houston?
Yes, I see him every so often. Now, he retired up to Dallas, but we see each other often. That's very true.
That's fantastic. And we want to thank you for joining us from the warmth of your home.
Yes.
From the cold here in Wausau, Wisconsin.
It is a little chilly here.
Had a great time. Santana Dotson, and our thanks to Mayfield Sports for helping making this happen. We'll be back with our last NFL Pick'em after this break.
When disaster strikes, water, fire, storm damage, and even mold, we take care of them all. Anytime, day or night, 24 hours, 7 days a week. Quality service and customer satisfaction are top priorities. Tell your insurance company you prefer North Star Cleaning and Restoration.
And remember, don't just get it clean, get it North Star Clean.
NorthstarCleaning.net.
Hermiting Financial Group strives to help you and your family reach your financial goals while demonstrating their core values of integrity, independence, and innovation. With offices in Wausau, Stevens Point, Manitowoc, and Wisconsin Rapids, proudly supporting the Boys and Girls Club.
It's 3 p.m. For 50 million kids across America, school's out, and for a third of these kids, they're out on their own, out with nowhere to go and nothing to do. It's time to support the Boys and Girls Clubs. Great futures start here.
Do you like to walk?
Do you want to live longer?
You will love square dancing.
Friends you meet for life.
Marvelous people.
I guess I meet people. I love it.
Love it.
I love square dancing.
The fun, the family.
Great variety of music.
The camaraderie.
Too young?
It's fun. Try it, you like it.
Call 715-544-7969. Visit WisconsinSquareDancing.com for more information. First lesson free, singles and couples welcome.
Time for our final block and our NFL pick-em this week. The Super Bowl, the finale, the only one left. And we mentioned this last week. I have a 2-game lead on Keith, so it doesn't matter which way I go.
So
we'll let you. Should I pick first?
You're the leader.
You know, I would really want to take Carolina, but I'm pulling for Peyton Manning. And I'm going to take everything that Santana said about the defensive line for the Broncos and apply it to the reasoning as to why they'll win. So I'm going to go Broncos.
You know, I'm going to go Panthers. I'm going to go Cam Newton. I'm going to go 45 touchdowns. I'm going to do a little dabbing. I think there's going to be some of that. Greg Olsen, that defense. Peyton's done enough. You know, much like in Super Bowl 32, I don't want to hear about, let's see Elway win one. Peyton doesn't need to win another one.
I'm going to go with the Broncos, too. Mostly because I really like picking opposite of Keith, but I also think that imagine all the free Papa John's pizza we're going to get if Peyton Manning wins.
And I like Peyton Manning more than I like John Elway. So we'll put that out there for the record as well. Want to let you know that we have one more show next week, and we have a local twist once again for our guests. We're lining that up. And then it's 4 weeks of the G3 Challenge game show in this very time slot. Our thanks again to Santana Dotson and Mayfield Sports, and thank you for watching. Have a great week.
Thank you.